I put together a pitch deck for DreamWorks to kind of explain to them about NFTs and like what some possibilities are there. And it's such a slow grinding process there that it's on everybody's radar right now. And I think the merge actually helps a lot of these big companies not get the backlash of the environmental thing. That's actually a big helpful benefit to it. But I think that it will probably become like a regular thing as things go forward. It only makes sense, like.
Welcome everybody to the Damn Show. Please welcome a very special guest. Give a warm welcome to PaperD. Let me tell you a little bit about PaperD. PaperD is an LA-based artist. He's a creative director and a character designer at DreamWorks Animation. He's a bored ape, goes by the name PaperD Studio on Twitter, and has his own derivative NFT collection called Bored to Death. We're going to be jumping into all of that, all the 10KTF, ape drama, toad drama. First of all, Paper, how's it going?
It's going great. Thanks for having me.
I got to ask as well to my co-host, maybe Diamond, having a good morning so far?
Yeah, great morning. I'm super pumped, happy to have PaperD here as being, recurring and important figure in our 10KTF community, but in the whole NFT space
I appreciate
as well.
it.
So, super happy about that.
I'm doing great. I'll be honest. I got up and got the bong out a little too early this morning. That being said, I'm on the West Coast. It's 8 a.m. It's Saturday, right? I can see Jeff has his hair washed already.
That's right.
He's ready to roll, right? He's probably had a cup of coffee too.
I'm still working on it.
Yawns down. So any future yawns, just watch out for them. But super excited to have this conversation and get it going with Paper today.
Awesome.
Amazing. So, Paper, I have to ask you, tell us a bit about yourself and tell us, when did you get into NFTs?
So, my name is Jeff. I go by PaperD on Discord and Twitter. And I started in NFTs in February 2021. Mm-hmm. That's when the first time I actually heard of NFTs was an interview with Fuocious. And then it led to that he was talking about like a person named Maddie, DCL blogger, and kept saying like this name over and over. And I was like, okay, I got to find out who this is. And so I looked up Maddie and found out, Maddie did all this online content that was about like kind of the metaverse kind of thing, and then about NFTs and things like that. And then he was about to launch a project coming up, which was the Meta Key. And so that ended up being my first NFT, where I was like, all right, if I can buy an NFT that teaches me about NFTs, like that seems like a good utility to have for something. So I ended up getting that, and like was really heavily involved in that community really early on, and learned a lot. And then I just got kind of obsessed with them and really have gone down the rabbit hole of being like a big collector now.
Yeah. And I mean, you're an artist yourself, and we're going to get into all of that. But I wanted to ask, were you involved with crypto at all prior to NFTs, or was NFTs your first brush?
I started buying like the tiniest bit of ETH in February. And I was looking at my phone about every 2 minutes to see if it went up or down. I was like, oh, yeah, it's going up. Oh, it's going down. And like, I just hated the roller coaster of it. And then so when I found out about NFTs, it's like, oh, I can just hold this thing and, maybe it goes up and, I could just, I kept myself from like looking at the price, and I got to look at the image instead. And so I was like, that's way more relaxing. It's way more fun. And then it was also like the part like that it's kind of the token gated part to a community really made it like, oh, I could distract myself from like, this is actually like an investment in something. And it's more of like, it's a ticket to a thing. And, being part of a community and the perks of that. And so that it just made it like a lot of more set it and forget it than like, oh, it's down 5 cents.
Yeah. And it's something that Figgy from 10KTF says about NFTs, on how there's the opportunity for an emotional connection that's created.
Definitely.
And I'm gonna get into like it's still to this day, my toad on my mutant toad on my ape shoulder. It is one of my favorite things,
Oh, that's great.
favorite derivative that I've had ever, I think. And so I always go back to it. But before we jump into all of that, I wanted to also ask. So in February, March, I would say April of 2021, I noticed, because I have some friends that are 3D artists, VFX artists. There was a conversation around NFTs within that community, and I'm just curious if you were a part of that conversation. And the gist of it was that there's a lot of, I'd say, FUD about like NFTs as like they're a Ponzi, they're bad for the environment. A lot of people in the industry, or at least vocal voices, were heavily against it. And so I'm curious if that ever surfaced towards you, and if you had any thoughts around that back then.
Like, I didn't care as much about that because like I've been doing digital art since like 1993, so like a long time.
Wow.
And it that whole time I was trying to figure out, like, even as like a teenager, like, how do you make a digital original? Like, okay, do you like, at the time I was like, did you put it on a disc and then like delete it off your hard drive, and like, you print it out once and then like delete it? Like, there were just like these stupid, ways of trying to make a one of one. And then like when I learned about the technology, and then it was like, certified originals on the blockchain, and I was just like, oh, this is so obvious. This is like what I've been waiting for my whole life.
Wow.
And so I was like such a true believer in it that I was like, oh no, this is definitely the future of being able to certify an original. Like, there's no question for me that, like, and I had researched the environmental things and like that, and I knew that, the merge was hopefully right around the corner, like it kept getting delayed a little bit, but I was like, all right, the that will get worked out. There's so many people working towards it that will be less of an issue. But I thought the opportunities that it would give artists like around the world in the level playing field that it gives everybody way outweighed anything else. So I just think that, I could definitely see that it was undoubtedly the future. And I think that's what made me go so heavy into it. And
I mean, couple points there. So 93, I believe it was 91 and 92 is when Photoshop launched. Is that right?
Yeah. So it was like early version 2 of Photoshop. So my dad was a commercial photographer. And so he had a studio that, like, I had access to computers like super early on, and Photoshop super early on. And so I was working with like the first Wacom tablet, and
wow,
like, it was, there were no layers in Photoshop then. It was it was
there
crazy.
Was no edit or like not.
You could like copy and paste stuff. Yeah, there was no history palette. You got one undo sometimes, and like it crashed a lot. And there was a lot of just wait. Like, I mean, you would like do like a brush stroke, and then you could like go have a cup of coffee and like come back, and it was like, okay, now we're next thing. So it's, now working is super fast because it's just, you can work as fast as you can think.
Right. Cool. Okay. And then I have one more question for you from that time period. It was a few months after that Bored Apes came around. So did you mint it? Did you find out about it? Tell me about that relationship.
So I did not mint. I bought my first ape in May, like the end of May, and it was like 0.6 something ETH. And the reason why I bought was like I watched a Journey Crypto video, and he was talking about this project, and it looked, the character design to me looked really funny. And I was like, oh, this is funny. Like, I didn't do any like additional research early on. I was like, oh, this character design's funny. I should support this artist. And so I bought one, and then I was like, oh, so you get the IP rights to this? I was like, that means you can like make derivatives of it, you can sell it. And I was like, oh, that makes a lot of sense. Like, I could do derivatives of this and pay for the apes that I'm doing like over time. I was like, it could take me 6 months to pay for an ape or whatever. And just like, I'll just do derivatives. Maybe somebody will want that. And so like I ended up buying 5,
Okay.
like all under 2 ETH. And then I was just like, oh, okay, well, maybe I should do a derivative and see if anybody buys it,
Right.
And so, so I made the Bored to Death token in like early June, and it was originally just like a derivative that was like, a derivative of my ape, and it was just as like a skeleton version of it, and it said Bored to Death. And then it comes to find out, like, I didn't know that there was like a merch piece that had come out like a week before from the team officially, that on the back somewhere it said like Bored to Death. And I was like, oh, that's a weird coincidence that we're, like that, we're thinking on the same page there. And then they did like a hat and stuff like that on the, and I was like, oh, I hope this isn't a problem. Still hope it's not a problem. But yeah, then like, I was in the Bored Ape Discord like a lot, kind of that summer, because it was just like such a funny place to be, where it was just like, I mean, it was really just like memes. I mean, it still is. But like there would be topics of conversation that were really funny, and I would just be at my computer anyways. And so I started just like making memes and things like that. And I would do like derivatives of apes just like quickly in there. And then there is somebody, like we started talking about like the appearance of different apes. And like somebody had done like a really long necked ape, because I think it might have been after the long necked ladies. Like at that same time, somebody had done like a really long neck ape, and then somebody had done like a no neck ape. And I was like, oh, those are funny. Like, what would be the next thing that would be? And I was like, oh, we should do like a thick ape, like a really, really thick ape. And so I started doing, like I don't remember which one was the first one, but I did like a thick ape, and I dropped it in the Discord, and it got like a huge reaction. And then I got like a million DMs right away, like, how do I get that? Right. And like that's a lot of what happens in the ape Discord, it seems. It's like, what is it, like if something catches fire, like everybody in the community wants it. So it's great that they've got these Twitter bots now that you can just put your ape number in, and like the whole community can do it. But so that kind of got me thinking of like, okay, I don't want to be like charging people for, this derivative or whatever when I already made this thing. And so I was like, oh, like the utility token kind of thing, like with Gary V, and that had kind of happened over last summer. And I was like, oh, I can turn that derivative that I did, that original one, because I didn't like start making like a ton of them. I just had that one. And I was like, oh, if you get that will get you a thick ape. That's how it started. And then I was like, oh, okay, cool. Because there's only 100. And I was like, I can do 100 of these, and that'll be fine. Like, I'm not doing 10,000. It's like, I didn't, want to commit to something like that. But so that kind of led to that. And then, like my project ended up selling out because of like the thick apes. And then I was like, all right, this is cool. Now I have like a utility token. So like when I do something new, it'll just be connected to this. And then, because I'm not really doing that for the money. It's more about like the community and having fun and things like that. But it's just like, it's a way to make it so I'm not committing to, 10,000 of a particular derivative. So that's continued to go to now. And I like over last year, I did like 5 different derivatives that, are all linked to it. And
I wanted to just quickly mention them. So you've done, like you said, the original thick apes. Then you had the mutant and ape toads. Then when Yuga Labs bought CryptoPunks, you had the punk apes and punk mutants.
Yep.
Then you've done the building apes with the the hand,
Yep.
and then you've done with the bear market saluting apes.
Yep.
What stands out to me about these is that, I mean, one, they're so topical because you're plugged into the culture, and so you understand what people are going to resonate with. But the second thing, and I said it earlier, is that they're so incredibly well done, and the diversity of art that you're doing, because you're doing pixel art. Like my mutant toad, I still look at it and I'm like, how did you make a toad with the cyborg eye look so like my mutant, but you have like 10 pixels to work with? It blows my mind. And then you have like the changing perspectives by making the bored apes face forward. You have the body continuation. So like, we know where the inspiration comes from, but is this just decades of just like skills that you've built up? Tell me about that process.
Yeah. Like in my day job, it's kind of like I'm in charge of overseeing like visual development for all the shows and streaming movies for DreamWorks.
Mm-hmm.
And like, so my job is more about creating multiple styles or curating multiple styles, as opposed to just having like a singular style. And so I've always worked, like, I've never thought of myself as having like one style. Like, I mean, I definitely have, like I lean towards certain things for sure, but like I'm able to match a lot of styles pretty well. And so that's what I like about it. It's like a little bit of a challenge. Like with each of these derivatives, it's like trying to do something new and different for each of them that makes them stand on their own. And so like sometimes they're pixel art, sometimes they're drawn, sometimes they're, whatever. And yeah, it's just keeps it fresh. And like what I'm trying to do with that stuff is it's more about like fun and community and things like that than like, it's definitely not like serious things. Like I minted like the thick apes and the toads and the punks, but I'm not like minting the building ones or the salute ones, because those are just like more social media things.
Yeah.
And just kind of fun reaction type things.
So you're going to jump into DreamWorks, but before we get there, PaperD sent me, I said there was a surprise, and I feel like this is the right moment. We're talking about these derivatives. I got these in my DMs just minutes before we started this conversation, and I'm so excited to show you guys.
Well, I figured Atari is the only one with the toad, and that would be kind of rude to like, leave you guys empty-handed. So I came bearing gifts.
So
PaperD, you hooked me up with the toad.
That's so cool.
Oh, fudge.
Okay.
Damn,
Oh
Okay.
my god.
And then we have, boom.
Oh, let's go.
Look at that mullet. Look at that mullet.
I made it blowing in the wind.
It's incredible.
Oh my, no.
There you go. See?
No, I can't believe it. Like really. Oh my god. This is beautiful. It's crazy. I'm so no, I can't. I'm so grateful. It's crazy what's happening. I'm getting these crazy gifts. Like first with Saboteur, now this. Like oh my god,
you're
thank you
very
so much.
welcome.
I love them. They're amazing.
You need to defend yourself against the next, toad raid.
Defend or maybe join sides on the toad raid. That's kind of what it looks like.
Maybe it's a bribe. I don't know.
I've been talking some mess on some of these spaces lately, Paper. I don't know if you stopped in, but like that we'll dive into that a little later. But I just couldn't appreciate that anymore. Thank you. Like I was saying, what's going on in this space is crazy. I'm extremely humbled by that. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
I think even one thing I notice is that when I see your creations, like these toads, I just got the biggest smile on my face and just felt like joy. And I think that's something that I've seen consistently from you again and again, which is why for a long time, I think I admire a lot of the work and the energy that you put out. And so, I should have known that you would do something like this and come bearing gifts like this, but I had no idea. And so I'm sure maybe's excited to put a little toad on her mutant and rock that as well.
on my wow as well. Yeah.
I'm gonna turn it to my PFP and put a hashtag Team Toad on it. I'm gonna see how the reload team feel about it.
See, it's all bribery. So, and we'll have to arm Atari as well.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
we'll need to get ready for battle.
Yeah, first, I want to say something more like generic regarding the NFT space as well, and what we're doing here at the Dam Show. For me, it's still crazy to think that thanks to the Dam Show, thanks to the NFT space, that is such a small space at the moment, we get to know and talk with personalities like you, Paper, for example, or people that have great, like, very important and great jobs outside. They really do big things in the other world, let's say, outside of the strictly NFT space. And this is, first of all, super bullish for the space. And second of all, for me, it feels crazy when I try to explain these things to people that are not in the NFT space, because they all think that we're just,
Right.
degening. And, they don't understand the level of personalities that are actually in the space like you. And yeah, for this reason, I would like to jump into DreamWorks, and if you can tell us, like, how did it happen for you? Like, you're creative director at DreamWorks. So a bit of background story and how you got to that job.
Like, my wife is actually we're co-creative directors. So we've worked together for over 20 years.
Wow.
And we started she started it. We started an illustration business when we got out of college that was actually called PaperDog Studio, which is what the PaperD like got converted from early on. And so we were doing like a freelance illustration. We're doing, book covers, magazine stuff, all sorts of stuff like that. I had gone to school for 3D animation, and she had gone for like digital illustration and photography. And so we had like this wide net of skill sets that we could do. And basically, like, we were running a business for 10 years and we were really enjoying it. We were asked to do a pitch deck at one point for a show for Nickelodeon. And we were like, oh, cool. This seems like a fun opportunity. So like we worked really hard on it and did that. And it went to the higher ups and they were like, oh, like this show isn't for us at this time, but who are these artists that did this art for it? Because we have another show that we want them to do at that time. So like, then they contacted us and they were like, oh, we have this show for you. And we were like, oh, this is cool. This is going to be our big break. Like we're going to get into, like television and all this stuff. And it's going to be awesome. And so we got this thing. And then the two of us got the swine flu at the time. So we got super sick. Like it was horrible. And we literally couldn't draw because we were both like horribly sick. And we're like, our opportunity is totally ruined. Like they're never going to hire us. No one's going to like believe that this is even a thing and that we're that sick. And so we're like, oh, okay, we just burnt this bridge. This is terrible. And so we're like, oh, this sucks. So we just were like taking, book covers and magazine stuff after that. And then like 2 weeks later, they called again and they're like, you guys feeling better? And we're like, yeah, we are actually. And they're like, well, we have another show for you because that one passed. And so we ended up working with Adam Peltzman, who's like a multi-Emmy award winner and like great writer. He was like the head writer of Blue's Clues, like, and he, has done all these great properties. And so they were basically like, he's a writer. He has no, he's completely open to what the visuals will be for the show. And they're just like, start creating some characters and stuff like that. And so we took and were able to create this entire world and all these characters in it. And like he was such a great collaborator with us. And we ended up making a show called Wally Kazam. That's like a show for little kids that's on Nick Jr. And then like we ended up getting nominated for Emmys and things like that. And then it kind of the show for like such a small budget show did not look like a small budget show. And like people in the industry could kind of realize that, and like there was something to that. And so when we kind of wrapped on that show, NBC had called us and was like, "Hey, would you kind of come oversee, what we're building here?" And then 6 months into us working at NBC, DreamWorks or NBC bought DreamWorks and was like, "Oh, now you're going to have all this DreamWorks." Then we started overseeing the whole scope of all of that. So, typically we have like in development, there are about 70 shows that are in script form. And then those get culled down to about like 25 that are in kind of art form at a time. And then, we do several like pitches to the different streaming providers like during a year, and try to make as many as possible. But it's a great job because it's there's so much variety to it, and they're like every show is different ages and different like it's like everything from Jurassic Park to Gabby's Dollhouse, and like just it's a wide gamut of things.
Cool. So which one are your favorite shows? Like the ones you worked on?
I think the Jurassic. We worked on Jurassic World Camp Cretaceous, which was super fun because it was like that was the reason I ended up going to school for computer animation, was because I saw Jurassic Park in like '93, and I was like, how did they make this, and how did they do this, and I want to do this. So it was really, really cool to be able to work on that property, and like actually, you're pitching it to Steven Spielberg, and like it's it's legit. Like they didn't, and it turned out really, really great. Like it's gotten a great response, and so it was that was definitely a really fun one.
That's awesome. Yeah, like we talk a lot usually about how great artists, great professionals bring their knowledge and their art into the NFT space. But what about the opposite? Because like we got Ben Mayer White this summer.
Yeah,
It was in an interview with us, and we talked about Adidas and how he brought NFTs into Adidas.
yeah.
Like, are you kind of doing the same thing with DreamWorks? Like, what's happening with that?
I put together a pitch deck for DreamWorks to kind of like explain to them about NFTs and like what some possibilities are there, to integrate things. And it's such a slow grinding process there that it's on everybody's radar right now. And I think the merge actually helps a lot of these big companies like, not get the backlash of the environmental thing. I think everyone's concerned about that for sure. So that's actually a big helpful benefit to it. Yeah, I mean, I think DreamWorks did a collab with Vox that I had no idea that was coming out. Like I literally saw it and I was like, oh, all right, I guess there's some part of the company is doing that. So it's like it's happening a little bit. But I think that it will probably, I think that it will probably become like a regular thing as things go forward. Like there's, it only makes sense.
Yeah.
Like it yeah, it's
I
yeah.
I think my question, Paper, I have a question on that. What do you think it looks like for a company like DreamWorks, let's say 5 or 10 years down the road, as it relates to NFTs? Do you have any thoughts about or things that you think will happen?
Like I kind of see the future of like these bigger companies where it's not like about the flipping and like making a ton of money off of a particular, maybe there's like a rare kind of thing, but I kind of see it like, okay, you launch a show or a movie and kind of like they would do toys in a Happy Meal on something like that. They would do like NFT trading cards or things like that, maybe unlock certain experiences or, more, they're like literally digital collectibles, you know, like
Yeah.
that aren't meant to be like, this is going to 1000x and, you know, you're going to retire off of, you know, whatever character this is.
I really think we're in a early renaissance period of that, where going forward we're not going to be seeing too. I wouldn't say we're not going to be seeing too much more of it, but it's not going to be, I think, as common. But I even think about it like this, where it's like, let's say you work on a movie with DreamWorks, and like you said, there's a Happy Meal, there's a digital collectible. In the past, like we collected, Pokemon trading cards, things like
Mhm.
that, and over time
Mhm.
that gets lost because you move and things. But now a lot of kids are going to have wallets, blockchain wallets growing up. And so they'll be able to look back 10, 20 years at their original wallet and be like, oh, yeah, I was 6 when I watched that movie, and this is the NFT. And I think that
Yeah.
is going to be so interesting.
Yeah. Like, I mean, my kids have NFTs
Right.
now. Like we did like the Cool Cats, pets with them.
Mm-hmm.
And so like every day they got to like
Mhm.
figure out what they're going to feed it and like what combinations. And then, I mean, they had a ball with it. Like, and then like, um, when they all hatched and stuff, like they were really funny and they really loved them. And then my son was like, you know, you can sell those other ones, but don't sell mine. And so I'm like, all right, I'll hold on to it for you. So, you know, I think that like, you know, I have a 6 and a 4-year-old, and I think that they're just going to grow up with it, and it will be, you know, totally. It won't, like, I think there's going to be a new name for NFTs eventually here,
Mm-hmm.
like that's going to sound less like clinical, and you know, nobody needs to learn what the word fungible means anymore, and you know, there will be some like catchy thing for it, and it will be Pokemon, and it will be, you know, trading cards, and it's, you know, the space moves so fast that that stuff hasn't really caught up to it yet, but I think like it needs like a marketing department behind NFTs in general that could be like, you know,
Yeah.
like they're not these, you know, horrible things that are a scam. It's like, yes, of course there are scams, but like once you've been in the space for a minute, you can recognize them because you see the same signs over and over again for the most part. And I think as it gets more secure and less scary about like, oh, I just put money in here and now it's all gone. Like that, once that kind of stuff goes away, you know, like I think there will be a rush to mass adoption because I mean, the bottom line is it's like anybody that's traded NFTs knows it's like extremely fun.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, most of the time.
Most of the
And,
time.
and, you know, there's lots of, you know, exciting things that are coming up with it. And, you know, that's what is so interesting about 10KTF is like, you know, it went from like, there was a guy in the Discord that was like, hey, put your ape number in this channel in the Discord, and I'm going to send you these shoes with your ape on it. And like at the time, like thinking back on it, like, oh, you figure out, oh, that's how he did it. But it was like, wait a minute, how are you doing this so quickly? You know, like there was like a magic to it that it was like, it was basically like he was doing a magic trick. And you were just like, and then like to come to find out later, it was like Figgy literally like looking up your ape number, taking the file and dragging it in because he had pre-rendered everything. And it's just like that. I mean, that was just such a cool way of thinking that I was like hooked on 10KTF early on. I was like, I'm not a sneaker collector or, you know, I don't like, I'm not into like fashion per se. Um, but so like when I think about it to a year ago that I'm like minting imaginary sneakers with my ape on it, and I'm like, I was on a voice chat at that time, and we're all like, we are absolutely crazy. Like we would never spend this kind of money like buying actual shoes, and like here we're like minting shoes to put our apes on them, and it's just like, all right, I guess this is where things are going. But I think there was just something that um, to that like magical element of it, like that somebody had figured out, like, hey, this can be a really cool, uh, you know, starting point to a project. And then it's been crazy to see where they've gone with it. You know, it's just, um, like, yeah, it's so nice with a project where you know that it's not a rug, like that you can feel
Mhm.
confident in the creators of it,
Mm,
that they can have that mystery to it,
mhm,
and like you can just be like, okay, I trust you guys are doing something cool with this. I don't have to worry about that part of it. Like you're transparent enough that we know that it's backed by a good team and you guys are doing good work consistently, that it's, it gets rid of all the worries of like, oh, this is going to disappear, like
It's like,
they're a legit business.
yeah, it's almost like if you look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs, it's almost like, I love what you said, because I've never actually consciously connected that they're they've earned that mystery because they've taken care of like the
Yep.
safety needs per se,
Yeah.
because we know that like I'm not going to wake up tomorrow and
mhm,
somebody has a meltdown, or project founder does has ran off, whatever happened. It's like we know that they're going to be there, and so
Yeah.
what I need to worry about, or not worry, but what I need to think about is like my strategy in this game. And then that's
Yeah.
actually the comfort that gave us um, the opportunity to launch a show that's heavily based around 10KTF, because we knew
Hmm.
that if they're in it for the long term, then we can actually build on stable ground as well.
Right.
So that's, I feel like that was a huge piece. And then Diamond, this is where I know you've been dying to talk about Paper D, Herb, these menaces coming into the Discord and raising hell. So let's jump into it.
Let's get fired up, y'all. Paper, freaking amazing having you today. I just want to ask real quick. You asked some dude in the Discord, did you know who Figgy was when he first started firing in those first renders, those early pieces, or did you have to like look it up a little bit into like his background and who he is as a professional?
No, let's see. I think that was maybe in September of last year that he was doing that in the Discord.
Yeah.
And I don't think I knew him at the time. Like, I mean, I've seen him in the Discord and everyone was like, oh, yeah, Figgy's like the greatest. And I knew that. And then I ended up talking to him in May. Let's see. I think I talked to him after the sneakers had launched, the original ones. And we ended up meeting like in having lunch in LA, and just kind of like talking about, businesses like in art and that kind of stuff, like not really 10KTF connected. Like I mean, we talked about that a little bit, but I got no alphas. He was very secretive about it, which I like. It's like that. It feels like it's a completely level playing field. But yeah, no, he's a fantastic guy, and I love chatting with him, and he's got such great insight into the whole market, and where things are going, and how to do new cool things. And I just like, I'm a true believer in the project, and I think it's exciting. And I think, as they expand and like, did this thing with Ranga and things like that, it's really, there's, I think they have a bright future. So
Unlimited upside right now for
yeah,
sure, as far as the
yeah,
larger space is concerned. And I think Atari had mentioned earlier about that Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and just knowing that this team's such a quality built team of real professionals. Love hearing the fact, yeah, y'all weren't talking about 10KTF, but the quality of work you do as professionals, I wouldn't expect you to, y'all got a
I
lot of
mean, I
other
did, I
things
did have
to
to
work
ask him. I was
around.
like, so how are you doing this? Like
Yeah.
that was my one question. Like, I was like, and then he's like, oh, he told me how. And I was like, oh, I'm an idiot. Like if I would have actually thought about how you were doing this, I would have figured it out. Okay. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. You
And
guys are geniuses. Um,
it's not that we needed an investment thesis or anything, but just knowing that Beeple, Figgy, Guy
Yeah.
Ocean, Tim Smith, and then you like the LinkedIn profiles that are all attached on we knew labs.xyz. For me, when I was new to this space, trying to figure out what's a rug, what's not a rug,
Yeah.
having some people that were really representing themselves in full scale with their LinkedIn's attached. I was
Right.
doing background research at that point to go find all those LinkedIn.
Yeah.
A lot of us in the Discord were, but just to know that like professionals of this tier are in the space give somebody like me a lot of confidence about what the future looks like. Hearing you talk about IP and the way that future projects, at least art projects, can be launched through NFTs. It's a slow moving process in the corporate world, but knowing that the real at the ground level artists are seeing the technology, the applications of it, just gives me a lot of confidence in what's going on.
Yeah. No, I think it's so cool. Like I was saying a little bit, is that it gives this sense of mystery, and they can do clues and Easter eggs and all this crazy stuff where it's like, clues are baked into the contract, and then you guys are going and finding it. It's like, like I think I remember when you guys first found kind of the Beeple connection.
Yeah.
And like, I was just like, how did you guys even like take that leap to even start going down that path to find this connection? Like, it was super interesting.
I mean, I can tell you because I remember it was like the 19th of September of last year, or maybe it was the 20th, and Wagmi-san leaves a shop, and so you could see the full red banners behind him. And then people were like, I've seen that logo before, and they posted like a Andy Murray NFT with which is what Weenie was doing before they were doing 10KTF. And I saw that, and I'm like, and then you go to Weenie's website, Weenie Moments, which is totally unrelated to 10KTF at the moment, and you're like, this is the exact same. And then you look at the team, and you're like, okay, so Beeple's connected. And then I remember I jumped into Beeple's Discord because Beeple had kept quote tweeting 10KTF, and I've never seen him do that with an NFT project.
Yeah.
And so I go into his Discord expecting to talk to his collectors, and I'm like, hey, I'm just curious, because like people keep retweeting this stuff. What's his connection to this, if any? Because he doesn't normally do this. And not even like 3 seconds later, Beeple responds with 3 sneaker emojis, and that's it. And I'm like, okay, what's going on here? What's going on here?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it like, and what, I mean, to kind of talk about like the toads and things like that, what happened, like if people weren't around at that time. So I was making these Bored Ape toad derivatives at the time. And then all of a sudden, like the 10KTF storyline started making the toads the bad guys. And I was like, oh, okay, this is actually pretty interesting. So I knew that they would do moments of silence in they'd make their announcement, they'd kind of, not say much for a week and then come back. And so, I was with my Discord and we were like, hey, we probably have like a couple days that we can just make up a story. And that everybody at that time was so conspiratorial that we're like, they're going to believe that this is real. Like this is going to be like, everyone's going to think this is canon and this is absolutely, what is happening. And so we just started like, I was literally drawing them live in my Discord and then posting them in the 10KTF chat. And so like we were just making this like flowing story, just responding to how the Discord was responding to things. And then I don't know how you guys found my Discord. And then gave it there.
So Diamond, I know you. I think you jumped in there at some point, and I did as well. I don't remember who gave me the link, but somebody gave me a link, and I'm like, oh my god, I'm in enemy territory, and I'm like, okay, and I'm like tiptoeing around like in the digital world. I'm like, okay, what can I find here? What can I take back? And Diamond, I saw you jumped in there at some point as well, and you were raising some hell.
Well, yeah, back in that day, so like I was doing a lot of deep research for the community back in
Yeah.
that day, posting the daily updates. And so when y'all talk about that conspiratorial, I know y'all were fucking with me, Jeff, and it's all
Yeah.
good. A lot of love, right? Uh, but like there's some stuff going on with the wizards back then too, right? So these alternative canons from alternative projects were kind of starting to intermingle for me, and I'm trying to keep an eye on everything that's going on, trying to track it. But what happened was there was one night that like me and my wife, I was having some health issues, so we hadn't seen each other in a little while. It's like 10 days, right? I was getting some medical testing done, and she came in and like we first got like linked up. It was just, and to be honest, doing all this research during that time was just a great outlet for me. It was something to like keep me busy and rolling, right? So like these things NFTs can give you that you don't even realize in some forms, right?
Mhm.
Communities can provide. Was just a really beautiful thing to look back on as far as the larger journey for me personally. But like I hadn't seen my wife in a while. She stops in 10 days, right? And like 1:30 in the morning, we hang out, right? We go out to dinner. It's a good time. And then 1:30 in the morning, she's laying asleep next to me, and the toads jump in the Discord, right? And like she hasn't been connected at that level for a little while, but I like reach over and I shake her. I go, babe, get up, grab your phone. She's like, what are you, I'm in the Discord, jump in the Discord. What's going on? The toads are here. They're raiding us. We got just pull out your gifts, punching gifts, say dead toads, and just start sending random gifts, all dead toads. We need as many dead toads as we can get in the chat. Because it was like, y'all waited till the perfect moment. Because, I mean, it was you, Pee Man, Lucky Ones, Herb,
Yeah.
right? Y'all had a great crew coming through. And like, so we were trying to fight back with as much gift power as we could on the other end. And just that antagonist, protagonist side of it. For us, I mean, it's a moment that obviously I will never forget it. And it's me and my wife look back on and laugh and like, you crazy. She's like, you crazy motherfucker. Like, but like, it gave us the moment. It made us feel some type of way, and the larger piece of all this, is like, NFTs, people might say some things that make you feel, or there's a quote that I'm looking for from Maya Angelou that goes around like, people might say some things, people might do some things, but it's the way that people make you feel that you will remember,
Mhm.
right? That's the gist of it. And I felt some
Yeah.
type of way when toads came up in the Discord, right? Figgy leads back to this emotional response that we get, right? And it kind of charges us, puts us in that next level. And I'm not gonna lie, Jeff, I've been looking at bored vibes or bored to death for a little bit, right? I don't own an ape, but I've been watching the NFT collection as far as like the larger like run. So I've got a question. If I pick up one of those bored to
Yeah.
death NFTs and I don't have an ape, I've got like a World of Women and a wizard. Like,
Mhm.
can I still get like some alternative? Like, would you be willing? What does that look like? I'm just
Oh yeah,
curious.
yeah. No, yeah. That's there are definitely some members that don't have apes, and totally welcome. And I just make you know whatever for whatever collection,
That's a
same kind of
ribbon.
thing. So
I
yeah, I have to categorize them a little bit differently when I mint them, but that's the only.
remember when I jumped into your Discord. I was looking around and I see all like the derivatives you're making, and I'm like, my mind's kind of blown because, again, even back then, derivatives, 10 KTF were really the only, I would say, derivatives, like the big derivatives. And so for you to be doing these high quality derivatives, I was like, how do I get like a mutant or like a toad of my mutant? And I'm like nervous to ask, and I'm like, I'm just gonna do it. I'm gonna ask. I'm gonna tag it. I'm gonna ask, and then press enter. And then you came back and you were like, yeah, sure. Like, send me your ape. In my mind, I'm like, wait, does he know that? Like that I snuck in? Like, does he? I'm like, I don't know. I'm just gonna post my mutant, and I'm gonna hold my breath. And then to see the mutant toad come back, I've mentioned it so many times. I think it's just going to be a staple on my PFP no matter what. And I can't do like the hexagon for Twitter because I have to have like a derivative with your toad on my PFP. So I'm always going to have the circle because it's I've said it earlier, but it's my favorite. I love it. Thank you so much for that. Honestly, it still
Oh
means so
yeah,
much to me.
no, definitely. Yeah, I mean, I guess if people don't know, like, I don't remember the story exactly that we came up with, but basically the like 10 KTF left off with like the toads are the bad guys. They're coming for Wagmi-san. And we kind of picked it up with the toads have now kidnapped Wagmi-san and turned him
Yeah,
into a toad. and
yeah.
then and then I don't think
Yeah.
people knew who Figgy
Yeah.
was at the time, but
No.
I had made Figgy a toad like before that, and I kept putting him into all the images like next to Wagmi. Like if you go back and look at those, it's Figgy's
Mm.
toad,
Right.
like trying to subtly knowing someday that people would know the connection. But Figgy appears in a lot of those little things as like a little Easter egg. So.
Remember, it was
That's
like
interesting.
Wagmi-san had gone missing at that point, and it was the perfect moment for the toads to reappear and say, "We've turned him into a toad, and we're gonna feed him to this mutant M3 toad, or we're going to." He's a little beat up with like bruises, and he's on a lily pad, and we're like, "There's a ransom." He's on the side of a milk carton. Like, there's so many creations, and I'm gonna post all the photos in post production when we get this published, so people can see all the different derivatives. But there were so many cool drawings that a lot of people, myself included, believed what was going on, and the shopkeepers.
Well, let's jump
Yeah,
into
maybe
that.
please take it away.
Because I need to give my piece on that, since I think in this room I'm the only one that was a hater of this whole thing. But I mean, I didn't like. I didn't know PaperD. I didn't know the derivatives. I was like very young in the NFT space. I wasn't around when all these things dropped. I was like 1 month in
Mhm.
NFTs probably back then, and we were doing so much work, like researching, trying to understand what was happening, 10KTF and everything. And then this story drops, and I'm like, okay, cool, but this is not from the team, guys. Guys, this is fake.
She
Guys,
had
I
such
don't believe in
sense.
this. And then Diamond Hand, like I was like, I'm not believing any of this. Diamond, I know that you are going to the secret tower to check here and there. There were people going to the Wizards, to Wizards Wednesdays, listening, just trying to understand if Wagmi-san was there. And I was like, guys, no one kidnapped Wagmi-san. It's not what's happening. But at the same time, the team, obviously, it was such a cool lore that you created, so adding to the actual story, that on one side they wanted to tell us, guys, no, it's not actually true, like it's
Right.
not actually our story how it's gonna be. But at the same time, they didn't want to do it because they didn't want to destroy this all cool idea that you guys had. So we were never having like a complete confirmation until like one day Nikki wrote in chat something like, no, Wagmi-san is not a toad.
That was my
Like,
favorite part of the whole thing. It was that was the most satisfying part, is that they had to like come out and clarify, and they're like, "This is not real. Like this has nothing to do with
yeah.
it." Like I was like,
Yeah,
"Wait, you
but
guys
like it
really
took
don't
a
believe
while. Like,
that like Herb as a toad is making underpants with Wagmi? I don't know. Seems
so
like it's
many
canon to
people believe
me."
it. It's crazy.
It's such a cool thing, because even to this day, there's still this co-creation aspect of NFT projects. So a few weeks ago, or maybe like 2 months ago now, the three of us, me, Diamond, and maybe, were put into the 10KTF story as
Right.
captains, and that for us was like, like, wait, what's going on here? But even 1 month into the project, you guys were like, that's what I love about you, Paper D's, because you started derivatives June of 2021. You understood at maybe at a subconscious or a visceral level that what this NFTs could be, and how the IP rights could really um, function as like a as its own piece of IP, that the derivatives are its own piece of IP that can really build a universe. And so I'm not surprised that as we're having this conversation 1 year later, it's like you were early on the co-creation aspect, what a lot of NFT projects ended up doing down the road with storytelling. It's working with their community, pulling lore from their community, and weaving it into the bigger narratives. And it's like, I do think that at some point we need to see Paper D derivatives in the 10KTF story in some way, shape, or form, because they're such an iconic piece. Like, we're still talking about it 1 year later, and we're laughing, and we're
Yeah,
reminiscing about that. It's still
still
debating
debating
about it.
about it.
Exactly. So
Well, I've got plans for things coming up.
Anything you can share about that before we jump into some of the rapid fire questions? No. Okay.
No, but there's big stuff coming.
This is not alpha for anyone, but there is a
No.
bored to death collection out there. He was talking about earlier. All right, not alpha for anyone at all. Okay. But that being said, just real quick before we jump into these rapid fires, like
Yeah.
working the alternative discourse and the way, like Atari was saying, the way y'all came in at the perfect time, waiting for the narrative to fit, right? With Wagmi all of a sudden missing. When that toad serum drink went down and Wagmi turned into a toad, like I went into the Toads Discord and I was like, that's when we went on our first ever, like, that was our first field trip, right? We wanted to go raise hell with the toads. We were tired of y'all.
Yeah.
We're like, we're always on the defensive with these toads. And so we need to go on the offensive. We're wrangling up a crew, road trip, everyone getting a thread. And then we went over to the Cryptoads Discord, right? And like I had this little thing that I made up that was like, fug around and find out. Stop messing with the old man, toads. And like it was like this piece of paper that was put on the piece of, like, I was just trying to do my best to keep up with the legends out here doing their Photoshop art, right? But like it was like, fug around and find out. And like, y'all are the original fug around and find outers. Like, y'all have me so worked up, Jeff, that I was like, we got to go to the Toads Discord. We're going to go raise hell. And then we ended up getting banned from the Toads Discord. I got in trouble for leading the charge over there. Nikki, we love you so much, Nikki. But Nikki's like, Diamonds, we can't be running over to our parent project Discords and breaking their fucking Discord bots. All right. And I'm like, that makes a lot of sense. It's all love. Like, but we were having so much fun over there with the antagonist protagonist side of things as well. It was like the same thing. They were throwing their, I think they do an exclamation point vibe. They do a call vibe, and you can vibe 1 or vibe 2 over there.
Yep.
And like, so dependent, they were doing all their vibes. They had all their vibes popping up. We're gifting dead toads in there. And like, as far as the community action, like what was going on, the emotionality in the chat just went rampant. And so like, I think there's something there in there, Jeff, if I was being honest, in the larger, like, I think you tapped into something that the larger culture could probably use as a benefit, like as far as like getting away from these crazy times going on in the larger market, right? Like it makes you feel some type of way.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's kind of what I'm.
That's all you can share right now.
It's like
I'm excited. I'm excited.
That's awesome.
So we got some rapid fire questions. Let me set it up really quickly. So some questions that we had, and then I also jumped into the Bored Ape Discord, and I'm like, y'all got some questions for PaperD. We're getting them on the pod, so you'll see some familiar names in some of these questions. Damon, why don't you start?
What was your favorite cartoon growing up, Jeff?
Oh no. This is not rapid. Let's see. I'm going to say Ren and Stimpy. It was.
Okay. And just real quick, one Saturday morning, if you had to choose a one Saturday morning, was that, are you in the same era as me, where like Saturday morning cartoons were big? What was your favorite one Saturday morning?
I've watched so many cartoons. Picking favorites is
too many.
It's hard.
Right?
Yeah. Like, I don't know if Saturday morning, I wasn't waking up early enough to catch all the good ones. It was like live action by the time I was waking up. So I'll say like after school and like DuckTales or something like that.
I'm scared the next question is gonna be even more difficult then.
Oh no!
Favorite animated movie?
Oh, that's impossible. I will say the original Toy Story, just because it's a big trajectory moment for me. Like it changed, but I could go on for hours about that.
Well, to be honest, like I'd actually be interested to hear. You said it changed trajectory for you. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, it came out like right when I was, kind of like after Jurassic Park, right when I was thinking about, I knew I wanted to do art from an early age. And when I was thinking about like what I wanted to do in college in terms of art and things like that, it kind of sent me down the computer animation path, like seeing that and just being like, oh, whoa, that's so cool. Like I want to do that. And, that's
Cool.
kind of where I've ended up going since seeing that. So
Thank you, Toy Story.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so more specifically about your work, what is the favorite animated project that you've personally worked on?
I would say Jurassic World, Camp Cretaceous, or Wally Kazam. They were both
Okay.
like Wally Kazam was super fun, and yeah, it was a great crew and a lot of good memories with it.
I'm a 36-year-old
Okay.
adult with no kids. I've seen the entire Jurassic Park Camp Cretaceous. I love it, man, for what it's worth, right? Like, I checked that whole thing out on Netflix. I'm a huge like fan of animation.
That's great, yeah.
And like just the storylines, the way things jive with it. I'm a huge fan. And yeah, for what it's worth, I just had to like, that blew my mind that like, yeah, I don't know. What's going on in NFTs right now is crazy to me. The fact that I'm on a call with somebody who worked on a show at that level, where I don't know, man, what's going on out here. But dude, so Mr.
No, it's
In the
definitely a
Bored
fun
Ape
one.
Yacht Club Discord, Mr. Eth asked thoughts on guac prices at Chipotle these days.
Too high. Guac's too high.
Too damn high. Too damn high. Golf. Actually, maybe why don't you take this one and I'll take the last one.
Okay, I have to say the name as well.
Golf ball
Yes.
butt, I'll guess.
Golf ball butt.
Yeah.
Avocado toast or not?
Like very rarely.
Hmm.
Like good. Like
Okay,
if it's
so-
really good, sure.
Good for guac, avocado toast, a little bit lukewarm. Okay, NGBX Ben said that you're the most notorious rugger after Beanie, and he asks a simple question: why did you rug us?
Well, he means it in the way of 10 KTF.
Yes,
Yes.
of course.
Yeah, no, that's just what you got to do. It's just part of the
That's
industry.
what you got to
Part of
do.
the process.
It's for the listeners.
You're just
It's in the 10 KTF way, not in the Beanie way,
Right.
not at all. Yeah, let's make that very clear.
Yeah, Ben is a member of Bored to Death, and
Yes.
so,
He was part of those raids as
That's
well
right.
early on. I remember him.
definitely.
We went back and forth a little bit. PaperD, this was one of my favorite conversations that we've had on the pod, and I'm not just saying that. Really appreciate you making the time. I'm so happy we finally got to do this. As we wrap up, was there anything
Definitely.
that you wanted to say? And please plug yourself as well, because we want to know where you can find you.
I'm at PaperD Studio on Twitter, and then at PaperD on Discord, and there was some number after it. Don't get scammed. I don't know the number offhand. Yeah, and working on some fun stuff. Been working hard for a while here. Yeah.
We're excited to see what you got coming in the pipeline, and it's good to hear. I've been wondering what sorts of trickery you've been up to within the NFT space. So I'm excited. Whatever you have planned and whatever that does come out, that we're going to be huge supporters
I
of
appreciate
that.
it.
So thank you again, PaperD.
Thank you, Paper, for being with us today. It was
Yeah, thank you guys so much for having me, and I love the show.
Great.